Hey guys, welcome to Troy Time. Hey, check it out. This is going to be a little bit different of a video, okay? I hope it works out. If you like it, cool. If not, hey, no worries. Join the next one if this one's not your cup of tea, right? But I want to talk to you today about what I call my survival mantra, okay? So, and the reason I'm doing it like this is because this is exactly how I would use it, okay? What I like to do is I have this sort of long spiel from A to Z of survival stuff, like wilderness survival. I actually have two of them. The first one is basically basic survival, and then this whole second one is all about procuring food. So the second one's about fishing, hunting, and trapping, and gathering, and that kind of stuff. This one's about basic survival. It might not make much sense to you, but you'll get the gist. It's a big, long ramble, so maybe you don't want to sit and listen to me talk. Hey, that's cool. I'm going to go just the next level deep. I talked a little bit in one of my last survival videos about the 5 C's of survival. This is that broken down to the next level. I might not go all the way deep and explain everything. It's just one long ramble. What you want is you want your survival knowledge to be deeply ingrained in your mind, okay? And this is great if you don't get a chance to go to the woods that much. I live in suburbia, right? And I can't, I'm pretty busy with everything that I do for work and travel and things, so I don't get a chance to get in the woods nearly as much as I would like. And so this is a way to just kind of keep that information fresh. It's kind of like studying for a test in a way, I guess you'd say, or just a good way of compiling all of the information. It's just one long ramble, I should say, right? So come along if you like that kind of thing. If not, then join the next video. But I'm driving today, and this is one of the perfect times. So what I like to do is I just kind of recite this stuff in my head like a mantra, and I do it like when I'm mowing the lawn once a week, right? Or when I'm waiting in line, or when I'm driving like this here. I'll just go through in my mind, and it's always the same, like kind of ingrained, sort of your plan, sort of your survival knowledge. I'm going to sort of showcase, just an entire book of knowledge for basic survival stuff. I'm basically going to just outline the 5 C's, okay? So I'll just get into it. It's just one long ramble. I hope you like it. This might be my worst video ever, right? It might do okay. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Bear with me. I'm just putting this out there.
In half a mile, at the traffic circle, continue straight onto Maryland 234.
Yes. So, anyways, yes, I'm just putting this out there. I'm going to try and do it all in one take. I may edit out some if my car directions start talking to me or something like that. But generally, it's just one take and just one long ramble, and you just want that knowledge ingrained, okay? So, yeah. So, it's basically going to be the 5 C's, and there's a little bit of a preamble, but I'm going to start here in just a minute when I get around this turn. Okay, so yeah, at the risk of getting you guys seasick from the moving background, I'll just continue from here. And probably not my best angle on the camera either, but that's what it is, right? So yeah, so we use this mantra just to kind of ingrain stuff, and it's a good way of sort of a meditation or a mantra or a ramble, however you want to look at it. I know it's a little weird maybe for some of you guys, but I just do this. I kind of recite things just to kind of make sure that I have them, down. And that's what you want. You want it just to be visceral knowledge. You get that by using it, but you also get it by sort of reciting it. And so that's what I'll do now. So first I'll start with the preamble. The preamble is once you find yourself in a survival situation, you want to take inventory, okay? You want to take inventory of your mind, you want to take inventory of your body, and you want to take inventory of your surroundings, okay? So when you're taking inventory of your mind, the first thing you want to do is calm yourself, okay? You're probably in that situation because somebody made a mistake. Maybe it was you, maybe it was someone else in that group. But it doesn't matter. You don't want to have that grudge. You don't want to have bad feelings. You don't want people, you're going to need everyone's help to get through it. And so you don't want people to feel outcast or maybe try to take risks that they shouldn't take to make up for the fact that they got into that situation in the first place. So you want to calm yourself, okay? And help calm other people. Secondly, you want to reassure yourself as you're taking inventory over your mind. You want to reassure yourself, hey, you know what? I've got some skills. I've got some knowledge. I can get through this. We can make this happen, right? And then thirdly, when you're taking inventory of your mind, you want to motivate yourself, okay? You want to set your intention, all right? So once you say to yourself, hey, not only can I get through this, I will get through this. I will see my loved one again, or I will see my pet again, or I will get back and I will help whoever I'm trying to help. Whatever your motivation is, you want to set your intention in the beginning and make a promise to yourself that you will do it. That way when time gets tough, you're not going to break your word. You've already decided. There is no going back. There is only to get through the situation. Okay? And so that's what you want to do for your mind to get ready. Okay? Get your mind in the right spot. All right? Secondly, you want to take inventory of what is on your body. Okay? You want to take inventory of what you have on you You want to take inventory of what the rest of your group members may have on them, and you want to empty out any kind of pockets or packs or that kind of thing, and make sure that you understand what are available as liability, what are available as assets that you can use to counteract some of the liabilities. Okay, so this is important because you don't want to spend an hour making cordage if someone's got rope or twine or something like that. You don't want to spend an hour making a cutting tool if someone's got a pocket knife tucked away that maybe they forgot about or something like that. All right, so that's taking inventory of what's on your body. Okay, thirdly, you want to take inventory of your environment. Okay, so this means that you want to note particularly the weather, you want to note particularly the time of day, you want to figure out what your main threat is that's most prominent. Is it nightfall? Is it an incoming storm? You know, that kind of thing. So you want to take inventory of your environment that way. I also recommend taking a walk around the immediate perimeter of where you're at, just like maybe 5 minutes. Maybe you're doing that while you're doing all this other stuff, and look for any man-made items whatsoever. Okay, so anything that's man-made is going to be rare when you're out in the woods, and it's going to be able to be an asset for you. Okay, and thirdly, you want to take inventory of assets that are in nature, like noting where, hey, there's a group of trees down there, maybe there's water there, that kind of thing. So you're just taking in the actual environment itself and what benefits. Oh, there's some pine trees over here where we can get some pine needles for a mattress, or whatever it is. You want to take inventory of what is available in your immediate environment. Okay, so that's taking inventory, and that's what you want to do before you even start on your 5 C's. Okay guys, so you will see a few cutaways because I was having some issues with my phone and I was paying much more attention to my driving than I was my phone. So anyways, we'll press on. So it's time to talk about the 5 C's. The 5 C's of survival are cutting tool, cordage, cover, combustion, and container, in that order. So it's important that you know that order. We're going to talk about it, but first let's start with the first two. So cutting tool and cordage. Those two, there's a good memory trick. You can think of a cross, and you have a vertical line and a horizontal line, okay, just like you would have on your body. So for cutting tool, it's going to be that horizontal line, okay, across your waistline, all right? And then for cordage, it's going to be the vertical line, low, middle, and high. It's a good way to kind of remember that that's where you want to be looking, all right? But it's time to start talking about cutting tool and what you might have on you for cutting tools.
So things that you might have on you for a cutting tool along your horizontal waistline might be a key, a belt buckle, or a coin. All right? Now, if you don't have any of those, then you can look out in your environment. If you look and you found man-made items in your environment, in order to make a cutting tool, things that work well are any metal item that you might have found, or any glass item, or a bone, if you found like an animal bone. Those all can be fashioned into a cutting surface that you can use to cut and to mold things, okay? So out in nature, you're looking for metal, glass, or a bone, okay? If you can't get any of those, then last resort, you're looking at sticks and stones, baby. So you're looking at stones. If you do find stones, you're looking for a glass type of stone that you can break off shards, much like a scalpel. Or you're looking for, and additionally, you're looking for a stone that has a rather sharp edge on it, but like it would be like a one-handed axe. So a stone that's a little larger than your fist, so that you can sort of half pound and half cut with it. For instance, if you wanted to take down sapling for firewood or ridgeline for a shelter or something like that. And it'd be decent, and it would be good if you had a stone that would be two-handed, like a big flat stone with a fairly decent edge that you could pound with 2 hands and use it to help break and half cut through some of the wood for different tools and for different shelter building and things like that. So if you are going to go with stones, you want something, ideally you want something that small crystalline shards, something that has a little bit more oomph to it, like a single hand axe, and then possibly even something like a big flat rock, which would be similar to like a two-handed axe, okay? So that's cutting tools, all right? Specials in our cutting tools. One special thing to remember is that any cordage can cut through itself. So if you're trying to cut cordage with cordage, you essentially stand on it, weave another part of that cordage underneath it, and then seesaw it back and forth in the same spot until it cuts through itself. The second and great special for cutting tools is a branch. A V branch in a tree is an amazing cutting tool, okay? It can break apart small branches, even medium-sized branches. And this is the way you want to go. And it's far more safer than trying to kick through a stick on an angle or break it off with your foot where you could possibly damage your ankle or something like that. So that would be a bad thing. So wedging a stick into a V of a tree and then using your whole body Usually walking forward is the best way to do it, but yeah, but you can break some fairly large branches, wedging a stick in a tree, breaking it that way. And the third special for cutting tools is fire. Fire can cut through wood. Obviously, you just burn right through it, right? So that can be very helpful if you're trying to burn things that are of a larger nature, like a stump that you can sit on or make different things. Fire's generally very useful, especially when you get into bigger items of wood that you're trying to get through.
Left onto US 301 South.
Okay, so once we have our cutting tools, then we need cordage, okay? We're essentially making our two fundamental tools. One of them breaks things apart and shape things. The other one ties them together and binds things, okay? So we need cordage. Cordage, a reminder for our cordage is our vertical line going through our midline, okay? And so on that, we have a low, middle, and high. So low would be shoelaces, right? All right, shoelaces. Shoelaces make an awesome type of cordage, right? But you want to use them in temporary fashion. Okay, so you can take off your shoelaces, for instance, and make a bow drill, make a fire, but then you immediately want to get those shoelaces back in your shoes and back on your feet. Preserving your feet in a survival situation is huge, okay? If you lose your mobility, you lose your ability to self-rescue, and you lose the ability to gather up materials. And so it's definitely going to be a hindrance if you cut your foot and it gets infected or something like that. So foot care is extremely important when you're out in a survival situation. So get those laces back on your feet. Don't use them in a permanent setting. Use them only temporary, okay? That's shoelaces on the low line. On the midline, we have the seam around your t-shirt is excellent cordage, okay? It's very, very good. You can actually make that into a bow drill as well for starting fires, but it's really, really good. Actually, your whole t-shirt, you could weave in like a diagonal pattern and have a ton of cordage out of an extra t-shirt. A t-shirt's a wonderful thing to have in a survival situation. But generally for our midline, let's just talk about that seam that goes around it. Nice bit of cordage that you can use to help with shelter building and tools and a variety of other things. Okay, and finally up top, dental floss. I highly recommend you always, because the teeth are high, I highly recommend you always carry dental floss. It is an amazing thing to have on you in a survival situation. It is strong enough to build shelters out of. Obviously, you can use it as dental floss, but it's strong enough to build shelters out of. It's also pliable enough to make tools and different traps with different joints and things like that. And it's also small enough for fishing line. Incredibly easy to store. That's the paracord is the king when it comes to cordage, but it is a little bulky to carry around much of it, as opposed to something like dental floss, where you can fit a ton in your pocket, a ton of it in a very small size. You can fit it in your pocket. You can wind a roll into your wallet. You can wind it around different items that might be on your keychain. You should always have dental floss, okay? It's a great thing to have. That's cordage, okay? Now, if you don't have any cordage on you, then you have to look out into the environment. Expeditiously, if you were trying to make rough cordage, then again, you have a high, middle, and low, but on a tree, okay? So on a tree, the low line would be the root. If you find a long root, you cut that root and then you cut it in half, okay? Also, soaking it in water can make it pliable for the short term, okay? It will harden after a couple days when it dries out, but soaking it in water can also help making it pliable, as well as kind of tenderizing it with a rock, kind of breaking through the outer bark structure a little bit. But that would be rough cordage. Also, if it's a smooth bark tree, shiny bark, then you can cut long strips of that bark. You can basically just spiral it around itself, and that's pretty good rudimentary cordage that you can make a lot of in a very short amount of time. Okay, and then thirdly, on a tree up high would be a branch. So a small thin branch, 4 or 5 feet long. Again, cut it in half, right? Use like another stone to sort of tenderize the bark a little bit, and dipping it in water can help soften it as well. Okay, so that's just rough sort of rudimentary cordage. If you wanted to make real strong cordage, like real cordage, primitive cordage, then you would do what's called reverse wrap, twisted. Okay, and you can do that with 3 different things. Generally, long grasses, thick leaves that can be cut into strands, and lots of reed type material like the body of a cattail or something like that. So those are the things that can make really good, excellent primitive cordage by using the reverse wrap method. Also, a couple cheats on cordage are using your thigh as an expedient way to make a lot of reverse wrap cordage. A thigh roll hack, we'll call it. And then also, you can also make tons of cordage out of plastic bottles and even plastic bags. If you cut a plastic bottle, you can make a little primitive jig and cut a lot of it, basically tiny little diagonal angle to it, and you spiral around the bottle. You move the bottle, not the knife. And then plastic bags also make great cordage. So that's cordage, right? So next up on our 5 C's is going to be cover. Okay.
So things you might have on you to take care of cover is something like a rain poncho. Okay, rain poncho can be great for having making a lean-to or even an A-frame shelter, and it just works awesome in place of a tarp if you didn't have one. Another thing that you could use is a trash bag, especially a contractor trash bag. Contractor trash bags are awesome for that. You cut them in half and splay them open. They work great. And lastly, another thing that works awesome is a Mylar blanket, right? Mylar blanket can be awesome as far as cover as well. All right, so that's just one of the 3 things that you can use that you might have on you that might be part of it. We're going to need cover. Before we can make a fire, we need something that we can make it under in case it's raining or windy. So we need cover, right? So cover basically for our shelter, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need a roof, you're going to need walls, and you're going to need some sort of bed or some sort of cover from the conduction that your body heat would get lost to the earth. So you need a roof, walls, and a bed. 3 options on a roof, basically. There's a lot more, but the basic ones are an A-frame, right? Or a lean-to shelter, or what I will call a lean-A, right? Which is a great sort of hybrid between an A-frame and a lean-to, okay? If you wanted more information about that one, which is extremely effective but not well known, look up Alfie Aesthetics, where he talks about his lean-A shelter. It's amazing. Anyway, so yeah, so those are your 3 roofs, right? For, generally speaking, if it's hot, then you're going to want a higher roof, like an A-frame. You'll probably use an A-frame. The hotter it is, generally the higher you're going to want your roof on your A-frame. If it's very cold, then you want it very low to the ground, okay, for something like a debris shelter, all right? For a lean-to, that's generally going to be when you have a fire. As a general rule, you're going to use a lean-to when you have a fire because you're going to lean to the fire, and you're going to use an A-frame when you do not, and you'll make something like a debris shelter, okay? But if it's real hot, you may have a tall A-frame shelter if you were, for instance, in the desert or something like that. So for the walls now, a great way that you can make walls, if you have a decent amount of material around you, larger branches and things like that, is to pound 2 sticks together at one point in the ground and another 2 sticks together at another point in the ground, and use that to stack large branches in between them. That works a great way to make a wall very quickly. Okay, if you want to make it more wind tight, airtight, you can stack mud or leaves in between the branches, and that works really, really well. Now, if you don't have larger branches for a wall, then what you can do is you can use smaller twigs and stuff, in which case you will weave them in and out. So you stick, let's say, 4 or 5 different branches in the ground, and then you take one stick and you move it like kind of like when you make pot holders when you were a kid. A lot of us did in school. Basically, you just weave it in, take one long branch, because the smaller branches are pliable, so you can weave them in and out. And so you can make your walls that way with a weaving type structure with the smaller branches. Okay, and then oftentimes for those, it would just be stacking debris, leaves, and things like that. You can put them at an angle a little bit and stack more leaves and stuff on top, because the smaller branches will have more gaps and therefore will be more permeable through the wind. Anyways, those are the ways you can do walls, and then for the for a shelter from the ground or a bed, a raised bed, you can use pine needles. Oftentimes we're great, pine boughs, right? And if you have larger branches, you can stack the branches sort of like 2 long ones and 2 short ones, kind of like Lincoln logs, which makes a crevice underneath you, smaller branches across the top for your mattress, and in that crevice you can put heated rocks. Once you have a fire, you can heat rocks up and put them underneath that space, thus keeping you warm from the bottom up, which is a great way to go. Lastly, for cover, once you have some cordage, you can actually wrap handfuls of grasses into like spools and use those almost like shingles on a roof, but they're going to be like on your bed or on the ground, where you've got those rolls of grass all kind of bound up together to make like a mattress. So you use some cordage to wrap rolls of grasses, and then you'll line the grasses up, and then you can weave your cordage in and out around them, almost in the same style of what you might have seen in like a rattan rug, that kind of thing. But yeah, it can make a very effective little mattress to insulate you from the cold of the ground. Okay, yeah, so those are things for cover. Additionally, for cover, you can use dried leaves in between layers of your clothing to get an air gap for extra insulation. That's a great one. You can use mud as cover against the sun or against insects. Once mud dries on your skin, you can use that as extra cover. Also, using the bundling method, or if you have large leaves, you can make yourself some sort of head cover, which is important for either when it's hot or when it's cold. It's an important thing to do to be able to improvise some sort of cover over your head. All right, so that's cover. Okay guys, so some specials on cover is that you can actually make shelter improvements to your roof if you're using natural materials. If you've done something like a debris shelter, you have natural materials on your roof. Simple improvements can be adding another frame on top of it for a slight amount of compression, which will hold everything in place much better if it rains. And you can actually make like a shingling type of component by cutting moss into like shingles and layering them. Also, in addition to moss, or in replace of it, you can use large sections of bark. So oftentimes you can pull large sections of bark off of a log, and you can layer them in a shingle type method on top of your roof, and it will make for much better protection, especially in the rain. One additional shelter improvement, and a big one, would be to have a fire reflection wall. Okay, so if you have your shelter and you have your fire, on the other side of your fire, you build a fire reflection wall. This can be done either with natural material, or that Mylar blanket makes a great thing to use that for. It'll not only reflect all the heat from the fire back at you, but it'll stop the wind from blowing the smoke from the fire into your shelter and into your eyes. So a fire reflector wall, and it actually can provide a bit of stealth as well, kind of hiding your fire from a distance, making it a little stealthy should that be needed. All right, so fire reflector wall, another great shelter improvement for cover, just another special. All right, next up is combustion, okay, or making fire. So for that, I categorize the things into 3 different methods based upon what the energy source is that makes the fire. Okay, if it uses your muscles, or it can use electricity, or it can use the sun. All right, so those are your 3 options. Using muscle, basically you're talking friction fire. Okay, my 3 favorite methods of a friction fire are a hand drill with a hack, a bow drill, or a fire roll. Those are my favorite. Okay, if you're dealing with electricity, you can use like a AA battery with a gum wrapper. A lot of people have seen that. You can also use like a 9-volt battery with like a steel wool or any sort of very small wires. And you can use a car battery should you come across like a dead vehicle or something with a pencil, or the pencil works great because as it arcs, the wood's there to kind of catch like tinder. But any wires with any type of battery, you can get a spark. Put it in like a bundle, like a bird's nest, and get a fire going once you have good tinder. Yeah, so basically you can get a fire with electricity, or you can get a fire with using the power of the sun. Okay, so you can do that either with like a lens where you have like a magnifying glass, or maybe you have binoculars if you were out, in the woods. A lot of people would take something like that, or possibly eyeglasses, right? Something like that. Those will definitely start a fire for you. You can make an impromptu version of those by using any kind of globe or cylinder. Sometimes the roundness of a water bottle will work. Sometimes a plastic bag filled with water. Some people have even filled one with urine and successfully started a fire. Or I've even seen an ice cube be manipulated into a circle, cleared, rubbed until it was very clear, and then used as a focusing lens to start a fire. The key when you're doing that is to keep it extremely still, and if you have something black, even preferably like a char cloth, that's going to be the best case scenario to get that started with that sort of primitive lens. And then the last one is like a reflector or a collector, something like you would have at the bottom of a soda can, or you could possibly use if you have a flashlight, that lens of that flashlight actually has a collector or a reflector in there. A headlight of a car could be used in the same way, and you can even fashion different materials into that shape. If you have a Mylar blanket, there's a chance you can put it on a support and then pull it from the back to round it out into that sort of collective or reflective surface, which then, once you find the focal point of that parabola, you can then start a fire if you have good tinder. Okay? So basically your combustion is going to be either powered by the sun, powered by electricity, or powered by you and your muscles. Okay. Specials for fire. Okay. One is the hack for a hand drill. There's a hack for a hand drill where you basically have about a 1-foot piece of cordage where you support it on your thumbs, and that keeps you from having to press down, and it also keeps you from having to stop. Because generally when you are doing a hand drill, it's go, 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 stop, and then back up to the top, and then go, 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 stop. When you have that little hack, you can just go, 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 go. Okay? And so it heats up much quicker with no dissipating of heat during the downtime. Also, I like the bow drill, which is great. You can do a 1 or 2 person bow drill. There's even different variances where there is a weighted spindle pump drill, which is basically a bow drill. And then the third one is a fire roll. Fire rolls are awesome. You can do that any 2 flat surfaces that you can rub together with some sort of cotton material, and then using or tinder, and then using an exciter like a rust or an ash or a char cloth can really get that thing going. All right, so that is combustion. Okay, guys, special for combustion. Okay, 3 things. First one, Dakota Fire Pit. The Dakota Fire Pit is great as far as providing an initial cover, maybe even for a temporary fire. It could be your main fire, but it's great to actually kind of build that. If it's windy and it's raining, you can find a spot, you can dig a hole, you can get a temporary fire going. That'll kind of keep you warm. As you're building your shelter, which could take some time, then having that temporary fire there is great as far as warming up before you go gather another round of resources, okay? So either as a permanent fire or as a temporary fire, Dakota Fire Hole is great, okay? Great thing to know. Another secondary combustion special is the snake hole fire, okay? Snake hole fire is awesome. Basically, you're making sort of a rocket stove in a ground or in a hill, and what that allows you to do is have a totally enclosed sort of hot tent or hot shelter. By understanding the snake hole fire, you can have a heated place out in the elements, which is completely encased. You've essentially made your chimney out of a hill or out of a ground portion that's built up. Okay, so the snake hole fire is awesome. Snake pit fire is awesome. And thirdly, one of the specials for combustion or for fire is a hack that we'll show you for char cloth. Char cloth can be made very simply without having to cook it for an hour in a tin or something like that. There's a very short 1-minute hack to make char cloth that works great. For a container, if you don't have a container, then the natural ways to make one are a bamboo bowl, a bark bowl, and a burn bowl. Okay, bamboo is naturally very fire resistant, and you can actually boil water inside of a slice of bamboo 2, 3, maybe 4 times before it burns through. It's very, very sturdy in that method. You can also use a bark bowl. Again, if you've got a shiny bark tree, you can get fairly wide pieces of bark, fold them up, and use a supporting structure to basically make it into a container. And then what you'll do is you can put water in there and put hot rocks from the fire inside that water, and it will begin to boil. So that is your bark bowl. Also, you can do that. Variation would be to dig a hole in the ground, support it with some plastic, and you can do a similar sort of thing in the ground, using the ground as the container. But that's your bark bowl. And then you have your burn bowl. Burn bowl is essentially like if you have a stump or a log that's down, you basically burn the outer edge until it sinks down, and you make a crevasse. You make a receptacle there where water will pool, and in that water you put hot rocks in the fire, and then it will boil that water. And so that is your bamboo bowl, bark bowl, and burn bowl as your container options. Specialty on the container is actually the one I described already with the plastic and the hole in the ground. 2 is that you can actually boil water in a plastic bottle, right? Which is, it can do that. It can last for 2 or 3 times of boiling water in a plastic bottle. Just being careful about not overheating it. And 3, you actually can boil water in a bag. A paper bag or plastic bag are capable of boiling water if you keep it at the right temperature and the right distance, all right? So, and that's something you should practice, right? All right, also guys, for specials when it comes to container is remembering that water bottles and plastic bottles and things like that can not only store water, but they can keep things dry as well. So remember that. They can keep like different tinder and other things that you want dry, they can keep it dry, okay? So now, not only is a waterproof bag good for holding water, but it's good for keeping things dry. Another special for containers is use of a t-shirt, okay? T-shirt can be used to help carry items, right? It can make an awesome hobo backpack, or what's called a vindle, right? Which is a wrapping put around a large stick, okay? And then the other thing that you can do with the t-shirt is you can make also just a bushcraft backpack using a couple branches. But using a t-shirt to carry things can be very effective. And thirdly, for a container special, is learning how to make a cinch carry, which is great. It's basically just squeezes the string in 2 sticks, and you can make a very easy way to carry a very large amount of firewood with just 1 hand. So you could use 2 of them and carry a very large amount of firewood easily, okay? So learning how to make a cinch carry is essential, a good special as well. And that's a great container to use. So yeah, so that's containers. And and so basically all of this is designed to get you basically shelter, fire, and water, okay? Once you have water, you are good to go. You've increased your survivability by 10-fold, right? If you don't have water, you have about 3 days to survive. But by getting shelter and then building fire underneath that shelter and then using that fire with the container to boil water, now you have water, okay? The other side of it is food. But once you have water, instead of only surviving 3 days, now you can survive about 30 days, right? About 4 weeks. Something close to that is how long you can go without food. So down the road, whenever I do this again, I'll do the other side of this one. I don't know how popular this video will be. Probably not very, and that's okay. I'm not just documenting it for you. I'm documenting it for me and for other people that I talk to that have asked me questions about this specifically. So, you know, I just try to put it out there. If I'm going to do something, I try and just include everyone in it. So, like I say, people have asked me questions about this, and I was going to do it right now while I'm driving anyways. So I thought, hey, I would record it. And since I was going to make it, I was going to share it with another person. And so I just figured I'd share it with everyone. So maybe it's not your cup of tea, but there is a direct plan here that's prioritized in order, and just lots of different stuff. If you don't know what all the things are that I discussed, like a hand drill or bow drill or whatever, you know, we can get into that. You'll see that me use those in the future when I'm actually in a wilderness more type environment. But for today, I like to do this kind of thing just to kind of review in my head, and it's just a good way to pass the time and get the stuff programmed into your mind real well, so that even if you're in shock, a lot of this stuff you can still kind of retrieve and use, and maybe you've learned a little something or had a light bulb go off in your head of possibilities, and that's great. And if not, and you found the video boring, I'm sorry. I totally get some people, this is not going to be their thing. It's not probably good video quality, and there's things moving around me. But, like I say, lots of people, maybe there's some people out there that'll like it. So if it's your thing, hey, cool. But I was doing this anyways, and so I thought, hey, I just want to share. So, that's what we got for today. I'll do another one of these in the future, doing the food procurement side and food and gathering. And so, yeah, that's what we got for today, guys. This is Troy time. You guys take care. We'll be in touch soon.